Okay, so let's talk about Ravana. We're going to dive deep into one of mythology's most iconic villains. But we're not just going to rehash the same old story. Oh no. We are going to peel back the layers and really look at the complex and honestly pretty dangerous anatomy of this character.
And right away, here it is. This is the one idea that just flips the entire script. Forget everything you thought you knew about a big, dumb monster. The real kicker here is that Ravana's downfall wasn't in spite of his intelligence. It happened because of it.
So first things first, let's just quickly go over the version we all grew up with. You know, the comfortable villain, the one that's super easy to understand.
Right? It's clean, it's simple, bad guy does a bad thing, good guy shows up and fixes it. Good beats evil, the end. But here's the thing. That black and white story totally falls apart the second you look even a tiny bit closer.
So, let's start taking that simple story apart. It's time to meet the real Ravana, who is so much more than just a one-dimensional monster. This guy was no barbarian.
I mean, just look at this list. Seriously, we're talking about a top-tier scholar, a medical expert, a musician, an astronomer. He was a scientist, an artist, and he ruled a city that was basically a technological wonder. On top of all that, his devotion was so intense it got the gods' attention. This was a certified card-carrying genius.
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How on earth does someone with this much knowledge, this much skill, and this much power become the villain of the story? Well, the answer is probably not what you're thinking.
Okay, the whole key to understanding Ravana's epic fail is to look at his most famous feature, those 10 heads, in a totally new way. We always think of them as just a symbol of his ego, but they're really a map of his psychology.
That number, 10, is crucial, but it's not literal. You have to think of it more like 10 different departments inside his mind. 10 powerful, highly developed skills all crammed into one person.
So, as you see here, these heads are things we all have, right? Intellect, ego, desire, anger, pride, ambition. His problem wasn't having them. His problem was that each one was turned up to 11, but there was one critical piece of the puzzle missing. And here it is, integration. That was the missing piece. His 10 talents were like 10 brilliant superstar executives in a company, but with no CEO. Each one was running wild, doing its own thing with no central awareness, no humility to guide them. They were completely unintegrated.
And that's when things get really destructive. Because when you have that kind of raw genius with no one at the wheel, all your best qualities start to turn sour.
Take all his knowledge, for example. Without any humility to keep it in check, it didn't turn into wisdom. It twisted itself into this massive sense of entitlement. He basically thought that because he was smart enough to understand the universe, he deserved to own it.
And it's the same story with his power. Without a conscience, without any real awareness of the consequences for others, it just inevitably became abuse. He could do whatever he wanted, and so he did.
Even his devotion, the one thing you'd think would save him, became just another tool for his arrogance. See, his relationship with Shiva wasn't about surrender, it was a transaction. It was all about gaining more power, which didn't make him humble, it just made him feel untouchable.
Which brings us to the big one, the event that kicks off the whole war. If we look at it through this new lens of unintegrated genius, his motivation looks completely different. The simple story, the comfortable story, says he did it out of lust. But the deeper truth is, it was the ultimate act of entitlement. Sita represented a pure, integrated consciousness. She was whole. And Ravana, with all of his fractured brilliance, saw that wholeness and decided he deserved to possess it, precisely because he knew he could never be it.
So you see, the final showdown in the Ramayana isn't just a good guy fighting a bad guy. It's a cosmic clash between two fundamentally different ways of being. It's fragmentation versus wholeness.
And here's the conflict, laid out plain and simple. On one side, you have Ravana, unchecked intelligence, power without empathy, strength with arrogance. And on the other, you have Rama, intelligence with wisdom, power without ego, and strength with humility.
Which brings us to the fundamental law of this whole story. It's not just a nice idea, it's a universal principle. A fragmented system, it doesn't matter how brilliant its individual parts are, will always lose to an integrated system. It's just a law of nature.
And that right there is the real trap. Ravana's fate was sealed, not by his evil actions, but by the moment his own genius became his entire identity. Because when that happens, you can't be wrong. You can't learn. You can't even see your own flaws, because admitting you have a flaw would mean your entire identity is a lie. And that's the warning that makes this ancient story so chillingly relevant for us today. This isn't just about some demon king from a myth. It's a warning to all of us. If your skills, your knowledge, your raw intelligence starts to outgrow your self-awareness, if it outpaces your humility, you don't just become arrogant, you become dangerous to everyone around you and ultimately to yourself.